I applied for money in Switzerland because I'm a Swiss producer, but because it's a Polish film, I also need a Polish producer so I can maybe get money in Poland. Problem is, Poland doesn't want to fund it, it's too controversial. So what I do is I look for a producer in German television, and then hopefully I get German money, but then we need to be a co-producer again. So I don't know if you understand. Yeah, so I apply for all sorts of funds I can, especially national funds, so the ones with most financial sort of, what do you call it? Yeah, with the most finances to give. There are also some very small funds. Rachel, I'm sure you also know about them. I can send you a list of funds afterwards that's international, like the Wickers Foundation. There's all sorts. Of course, they don't spring to mind when I have to tell, but I'll send you a list. I'll send you a list of funds you can apply for without being like a big co-production team. But there's a ton of, there's chicken and egg that I think are very popular over with you guys. There's a ton. There's a long data platform just with film funds that aren't national film funds. But definitely, if you want to have a serious film aid, you need to apply to your local national film fund and your regional film fund, if there is such a thing. In Switzerland, we're very lucky. We have a lot of funding and a lot of money to make those. It's not always that we get the money, that's the problem, but we try. Yeah.
Okay, we have 5 more minutes, I think. If it cuts and if you want to do another chat, we can connect again if this chat cuts, so we can end all the questions. Yes, so maybe I will read Martin's question, or do you want to do it yourself, Martin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Kat, that's, you can do it, great.
Yeah. So Martin is asking, also Mike is asking, but I'll start with Martin is asking, how do you take bad comments from your work to not be mad or sad when you hear or read it? Well, again, you cannot be proud when you make films. So that's the very, very short and easy answer. If you take any commentary that, you know, or any criticism personally, then you lose, and then you will never make a film again. I mean, people are always going to hate your work, but some people will always love your work. So, I mean, I think if you want to make films, then you just have to get real very, very quickly and just stick with your vision. That sounds so cheesy, but it's true, because there's always going to be tons of people who really hate an idea you have, or maybe they even hate the whole you have. I'm sure a lot of people that don't agree with cow fighting or with Polish right-wing extremism, or maybe they do agree with it and then they don't agree that we're trying to make a film that talks against it. But you know what? Haters are always going to hate. I think that's Beyonce who said that, and I agree with that. Just stick to your story, and don't be mad about it, but take criticism, you know, take the advice. Maybe it's also it's maybe very sound criticism. Maybe your story doesn't work out, or even worse, maybe there is no story and you think there's a story, and then people are like, yeah, well, so what? Why should I care about person A and B doing this? Okay, that's a good question. Maybe I need to think about that. But you cannot take it personally, ever, because it's never personal. It's, I hope. For my cow film, there was a lot of people that hated the fact that I was showing cows being hurt on television at 8 o'clock at night. They were bleeding and stuff, and they thought it was very nasty watching animal abuse in that way. And I didn't take it personal. I just said, yeah, okay, it's not nice to look at, but hey, it's the reality of that area of that country. So that's just how it is. And then at the same time, I had a lot of comments that were like, oh, what a beautiful young woman. She's trying to go her own way. They didn't even see the animal abuse and stuff. It was really like, you know, 50-50. Some people were like, oh, how can they do this to the cast? And the other ones were like, oh, what a courageous young woman. So, you know, it's, yeah, that's how I would answer that question. How to, don't take the bad comments. There you go. Just take good advice, take criticism. But if someone has nothing constructive to say, then screw him. Sorry, but like only constructive criticism is valid, I'd say. And don't take it personal, just keep working.
Good.
So
good. We have another question of Mike Reininman.
Do you have any experience with serial formats, or how would you approach those formats differently? Thank you, Mike, for this question. I don't have any experience yet with serial or episodic formats. I'm trying to develop one right now. So I'm trying to develop a documentary format with 5 episodes. And the way I'm going about it as a producer and as a director is actually not that different than if it were one film. I still need compelling characters. I still need storylines that make sense and are good to edit. I still need, I still need the locations, and still need the same kind of team. I'm not necessarily changing my approach all that differently than if it was a 1-hour film. In fact, the show that I'm trying to develop, or the episodes, a big format that I'm trying to develop is about mountaineers seeing ghosts when they go into the mountain. And at the moment, the challenge is to find enough people who have experienced this sort of symptom, where they have experienced some kind of, almost ghostly apparition. It's almost always, or it's always some kind of psychological break that they suffer, a lot of physical stress. So what I did find were 2 experts that are studying this, 2 alpine experts that are studying just the psychological effect of being totally broken. What I haven't found yet is that many mountaineers and athletes who've actually experienced it. But that would be still the case if it was just a 1-hour format. But my approach to making a show, or more episodes and shorter formats, is actually that different in terms of preparation, in terms of shooting, in terms of story development. I guess what differs mostly is how would I pitch this idea to broadcasters, how would I pitch it to studios or whatever, how would I pitch it to different countries. I've pitched it to one television station where they were like, no, we don't anything exotic, we don't care, but make a film out of it and we'll buy it. And then I'm like, okay. So I think that's my biggest challenge at the moment is really, how do I place an episodic format within documentary? It's a bit difficult for me because I've never done it before. I'm still a junior. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. And I think the last question for today is from Emmanuel.
Go on, Rachel?
Yeah. The last question, and then we can say.
If the subject is okay, so how do you decide if the subject of the documentary really have social or human relevance? Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question, and I think a fantastic question to close the whole conversation with. You know what? I think you do it with your gut a little bit of gut feeling, a little bit of life experience. Sometimes a person will present to you a story of their lives, and you will very quickly see that it's either bullshit or it's true. Sometimes, and this is very hard when this happens, you follow this person and their story for a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months, and then you find out, oh, there is actually no story there. When that happens, it can be very heartbreaking because you invest time and money, or you don't invest money in it, but you definitely invest your time in it, only to then having to give up the project. I mean, I said I have 5 films in production at the moment, but I have 15 in, like, on paper somewhere. I have 15 different ideas of people that I'm approaching the entire time, of people I'm on the phone with. And only 1 or 2 of those ideas are gonna maybe only 1 will work, or maybe none of them will work out. I think the way I decide if they're relevant or have, any human relevance is seeing if they're really truly going through something that I can realistically also visualize in a film. So it also has to work, and it sounds a little egoistical, but there